Now this car is all about luxuries and looks. From the added 20-inch wheels, nice lines, dual exhaust, plenty of power for towing. It's an evolution of the classic Lexus SUVs. Pretty much the gold standard for normal people SUVs. I'm not including the exotic ones here. I mean, these are expensive enough. This particular one is as loaded as can be. As you can see, it's $63,805. If you have that kind of money and you want a luxury SUV that's gonna last and last, you definitely want to check this thing out. From the history of my own customers buying these things, they get 2, 3, 400,000 miles out of these things. They last a long time. So you might think, oh, that's an awful lot of money. But if it lasts 2 to 3 times longer than the competition, you're actually getting your money's worth. And to begin with, it's got the interior size that people want in a serious SUV. Lots of room inside the front. Check the back seats. Lots of room here. And when we flip them, there is third row seating. Realize that, you know, it's not for gigantic people. Because if you see here, not the biggest leg room in the world. You're going to have to move these up. You're not going to have giant football players all fitting in the back here. This is the L. It is a longer vehicle. This L with a third row seating is only 4.4 inches longer than the 350 that isn't the L. So it's not that much bigger. And there is a third row, but it's not a full-size third row. And the people in the back only have this little slit window to look out of too. It's a little confined in the back. But as you can see on the inside, and there goes the mirror automatically opening. And as you can see on the inside, it's very luxurious. I love this black wood grain steering wheel. It is just the coolest steering wheel. I always like black and silver. It's got nice black wood and black leather and chrome. It really sets the car off. And of course, as we start it up, so Lexus starts right up. It's got all the technology. We push the little mirror here, and that gives you the 3 cameras that circle all around the vehicle for parking. So it goes all the way around. It shows exactly where you're parked. Unlike the other one, when you back it up, you get a good split screen. You see what's behind you, but you also see the sides. So you can get in and out of parking very easily. And I do have to say, I love the screen. It's a bigger screen. It's nice and wide. You really get a good view. Tach on the left, speedometer on the right, classic. Any kind of information you want, you can fiddle with all the gauges if you want to. Has a sunroof if you want it. And insanely comfortable and beautiful seats. My wife is very particular. She said these are the best seats she's ever ridden in. And this might be an SUV, but it doesn't ride like one. My wife liked that too. She admitted it rides better than her Lexus sedan. This does not ride like an SUV. It rides more like a luxury sedan than an SUV because of the suspension setup. We'll get out and go under the hood, crack it open. And we see a very dependable V6 Lexus engine. Take off the cover. And at least they're easy to get off. They stopped bolting them on. Now they just snap on. It's a very dependable yet capable engine. Puts out 295 horsepower. When you go to the back, it can tow 3,500 pounds. So you can tow stuff with this. About anywhere because it's all-wheel drive. It's got the drive shafts in the front. And when you go to the back, it's got the drive shafts in the back too. There they are. Not that you're going to be taking this luxury vehicle off-road, but it has a very intelligent Lexus all-wheel drive system, all computer controlled. Changes the ratio of which has most drive to suit all the conditions. Little or no problems at all as they age. Pretty bulletproof system. Now it's a relatively large, heavy vehicle, has all-wheel drive, so it's no gas miser. Particularly when I'm getting about 17 in town and getting about 24 on a highway, driving conservatively. Again, as I've always said, you don't buy a big luxury SUV to get phenomenal gas mileage. There is no such animal. They're too big, too heavy, too high off the ground, and all-wheel drive. No way are you going to get phenomenal gas mileage. What you get is handling, comfort, smooth rides. That's what luxury SUVs are about, as you're going to see right now. Get inside, start her up. And as per usual with these electronic automatic transmissions, you can go drive or you can go manual, where you can shift it yourself. Maybe you like shifting. Maybe you don't. Most people with a luxury car, they don't like shifting. This baby has a nice, quiet, smooth ride. And it's got plenty of power. It's almost 300 horsepower. Again, it's not a race vehicle. It's not what this is for. I now have it in regular drive in the D, not the manual, and we'll see how it takes off. We'll just floor it, and away we go. It throws you back in the seat a little, and it's got a very smooth shift pattern, but it rides like a dream. We're hitting the bumps, and it's like you're floating over them, which is kind of amazing for a big SUV that's high up in the air when you think about it. And again, for a big SUV, this thing handles like a dream. This isn't like you're riding around in some boat that you point. This is very crisp. That was the one complaint that people had for years about Lexuses, was that they were good, but they didn't handle all that well. These things handle like a dream. And they have a very intelligent braking system that really, you wouldn't think you're driving an SUV. You think you're just driving a luxury car. It's got all the electronic stability functions on it. If you happen to take your eye off the road, it'll start activating the brakes. I tried it out and it worked pretty good. Stop this beast. Stopped pretty fast, didn't it? Now, you heard those weird noises. Well, Lexus's and Toyota ABS systems have always made weird noises when you do emergency stops. You saw it stop perfectly well. That's the normal noises that they make. Don't freak out and think something's breaking. That's what happens in an emergency stop. The ABS system starts activating stuff, and it makes all kinds of strange sounds. But it stops. But one of the biggest things of these is the ride. Every time I get an SUV, my wife cringes and said, "Oh, we got another big SUV." I hate those things. They're bouncy. They're too high up in the air. What did she say about this? Oh, I like it better than my Lexus for the ride. It has a very smooth ride. And coming from her, that says something. And it has style. I mean, I'm in love with this black steering wheel. I got to get a hold of one of them for my own cars. I really like this black and silver steering wheel. But the whole car, there's room, there's space. It's quiet, it's comfy. Except for the little people that have to sit in the third row seating. It is rather cramped back there. But look at it this way, it's way back there. Let's say you have babies, or in my case, grandbabies. They can go way in the back, so they can't spit on you. The mothers can sit in the back seat, and the babies can be in their little harnesses in the third row ones back there, where they're really safe and far away from me. And of course, it's got all the settings too. You can do the economy, normal, sport. You can mess with the all-wheel drive. And if you want to drive like a maniac, you can even turn the traction control off. Oh, but I'm so disappointed because that other Lexus sports car had the cute little mirror that was here you could pull out. This doesn't have the mirror. I guess they figured people with SUVs are less vain. I mean, really. Still got the mirror up here and the mirror over there. It's not like there are any mirrors. One of my favorite things, check it out. Nice looking chrome trim. Not just this ugly monocolor. This thing is decked out. And I really like the 20-inch wheels. I'm not always that big of a wheel fan, but when you go back and look at the vehicle, those rims with the spokes and the 20 inchers really set things off. And when you look at it, it's got a really nice aggressive style to it. Even the back has some space age stuff to it. I guess even I'm going to have to get used to this gaping front mouth because everybody's going to it. But who knows? I'm so cheap. By the time I buy one of these, it's going to be 8 or 10 years old. And by then, maybe they'll have front end kits that I can swap the front end to a more classic one. Now, Honda called them CRVs for comfortable runabout vehicle, and they are. This particular one is a 2012 4-door, got a lot of space in it, reasonable sized trunk, and under the hood, it's got a legendary Honda 2.4 liter 4-cylinder engine. This is Honda's version of the Toyota RAV4. These are a little faster than the RAV4s. Honda makes the best engines in the world, and they also handle well. They corner a lot better than a RAV4. The RAV4s are a bit more truckier, a little more chunkier, especially the older ones. Now, Honda sold millions of these things. And yeah, like any other car, they've had problems here and there. But the customers of mine that drive wild, like speed, cornering, they're much happier with a CRV than they are with a RAV4. As you can see by looking at them, they're not as high as a RAV4. They're a little bit lower, so they're going to corner better. And overall, they're more aerodynamic and really somewhat better looking than the RAV4s are. To me, comparing the CRV to the RAV4 is the same as comparing the Honda Civic to Corolla. They're both good vehicles and they both have their fans. The people that like driving faster, having more acceleration, they're going to get a Civic or a CR-V. Where those who value extreme long life, vehicles that hardly ever break down, those people are going to be happier with a Corolla or a RAV4. And yes, the CR-Vs, hey, they ride better than the RAV4s. They're more a driver's car. They're set up more for spinning around a lot quicker. And they have space. But a RAV4 actually has more space inside it. And I've had both CR-V owners and RAV4 owners get well over 350,000 miles out of their vehicles. So they still are pretty reliable, aside from the weak automatic transmissions of the Hondas. And the CR-Vs went to disc brakes in the back before the RAV4s did. So not only do they accelerate better, they decelerate and stop better. Now, from my experience of the Honda CR-Vs versus the Toyota RAV4s, they both get about 23 miles a gallon in a city. The CR-V's better on a highway. This particular one gets 31. Most of the Toyota RAV4s of the same age only got 27. And that's because it's less of a boxy vehicle. So even this thing is a little bit quicker than a Toyota, it actually gets better gas mileage on a highway. And like most four-cylinder Hondas, you can see they got a lot of working room. There's space under the hood. It's not particularly cramped. It's easy to work on these things. And if you're not too big, they're high up in the air, so you can change the oil without having to jack the vehicle up. Unless you've been eating too many hot dogs and donuts, then you probably have to jack it up a little to fit under there. So now you got an idea how Honda sold millions of these things, and they continue making them. Started in '95 and they're still going. I got many customers that have owned 2 or 3 of them. As the old ones wore out, they just bought another one and they were still happy. You think this car's falling apart. It's got 349,000 miles on it. But it's an '07 RAV4. Original owners. Original engine. Original transmission. They got two 2007s. One's a Matrix, one's a RAV4. The fancier version. If you always wonder why they call them a RAV4, some of it really doesn't make any sense. But it was called RAV4 because Toyota saw they were a recreational activity vehicle with 4-wheel drive so they can go off-road. This particular one is just front-wheel drive. Most of them are front-wheel drive. Now people are buying a lot more 4-wheel drive. Somehow they got suckered into they need 4-wheel drive. Bunch of baloney. Look, this guy lives in Ohio. He doesn't have any problems with it. 2-wheel drive in the snow. My son had one in Massachusetts. You don't need 4-wheel drive in most places. It's overkill for most people. Especially with one like this. It's got a V6 engine. The engine and the transmission is in the front. All the weight's in the front. You're pulling with the front wheels. It's perfectly fine. Now, when they lived in Vermont, they put snow tires on. Here in Ohio, they're not going to be putting snow tires on. They also did in Colorado. Studded tires too. But it didn't need 4-wheel drive. They didn't get stuck. You really don't need 4-wheel drive in most situations. As old as this is, the owner just told me these are the original headlights. Look at that plastic. They made plastic better in those days. Now, sure, the lights on my Matrix, which is the same year, '07, look great, but those are aftermarket because the original one's fogged away. So you pay a little bit more for the RAV4. They used to make them a lot better. Now, this is a typical classic RAV4. As you can see, it's '07. It was made in Japan. That's what you want. Look at the interior. Hey, it's still in pretty good shape. Man. They took care of this vehicle. And yes, I'm not making it up. We'll turn the key on. Check out the mileage. 348,475. Now, does it sound like a bunch of rattling bolts started up? No, it sounds like a Toyota. Is it shaking? No. Everything on it seems to still work. Got some basic phone stuff, even though it's an '07. And of course, it's older, so it's got a CD player. For those of you who don't know what a CD player is, you got these discs, you threw them in there and music was on it. Well, we've gone past that, but it's still there and it still works. It's a fancy model, so it's got a sunroof. Still doesn't leak. And just like the Matrix, I sure know how to make these cloth seats. They're still in excellent shape. Now we'll go under the hood and we'll look inside. Almost 350,000 miles. That engine's still pretty quiet. It's not clanging away. If you watch that video I made last year in Rhode Island, there's a guy that brought me one of those stupid Dodge ProMasters that was just a rebadged Fiat little delivery van. That thing had like 4,500 miles. It was clacking like it had 800,000 miles on it. This thing doesn't make any noise at all. Now this has a V6 engine in it. Many of them had 4-bangers in them. A lot of them had 4-bangers. 4-bangers are fine too, but he wanted this because he wanted more power. They travel all over the place. They lived in Colorado for a while. They're going up the Rocky Mountains. And they're excellent engines either way. You'll get a little bit better gas mileage with a 4-banger, but if you do a lot of heavy duty driving, especially in the mountains, you'd probably be happier with the V6 engine. It's got good enough horsepower. It's naturally aspirated. There's no turbochargers, no fancy stuff. Just basic fuel injection on a V6 engine and a transmission that still shifts really well. It has the original alloy wheels on it and they still look pretty good. And being the older style RAV4, it's got the spare tire on the back. I don't know, I just happen to like the spare tire on the back. You know, you got a real spare, it's on the back, leaves a lot of room inside. You can see you got their pillows and everything for traveling. And you pop the seats down. You can throw a lot of crap in one of these things if you have to. Solid made in Japan vehicle. And just like my Matrix, you can make the back flat, and the owners have done that and slept in it when they had to. They do have a lot of room. I had a customer in Houston, they turned one into a little camper. Now, it was only one person that was doing the camping to get the stove and everything in there, but, you know, they've got a lot of space inside. Now, he wants me to forecast the future, see if you can get another 300-something thousand miles, so we're trying out this new scanner I got, this Autel, and we'll see what it says. We'll plug in and hey, even the electric seats still work. Here we go. Diagnostics, auto detection. We got a Toyota. It's talking so we can start it up. Remember, this thing's got 348,000 miles on it. The tire pressure monitoring lights on it. It's got a code for that, so let's see what that is. And it says, data from transmitter ID 5 not received. Well, that's a spare tire. That one's not working. The batteries wear out. This thing is what? 16 years old, right? So, of course, the batteries and the sensors are going to go out. Most people just ignore it. Check the tire pressure with gauges. That's typical in any vehicle. Everything's green. So let's check out the engine and ECT system live data. We'll see what kind of shape it's in. So start it up again and we'll wait till it comes up to live data. Here we go. Short-term fuel trim. It's adding 1.5 to it idle. That's not bad for a car with that kind of mileage. Short-term fuel trim on a bank 1 is 3.1, so they're about the same, 2-3%. You're going to get some trim done on a car this old. And in this case, it's generally adding a little fuel because having 348,000 miles, the fuel injectors probably just won't spray exactly the amount of fuel. They'll be a little bit short, not quite enough fuel, so it's adding a small amount. And the air fuel sensor, you can see, look, 1 is perfect. It's pretty close. 0.998, 0.999. That's pretty close to perfect, which is, you know, 1.000. Bank 1 and Bank 2, they're about the same temperature, 284.1, 284.3. Of course, realize that is Celsius. Shows you the battery current with amps here. That's one thing you got to understand. If you're going to be looking at even an old Toyota like this, 2007, you get a nice scan tool like this Autel, you're going to get all kinds of data that you are not going to get out of other machines. Cheapo scan tool isn't going to be giving you all this data. These are serious machines for people who want to analyze stuff. So far, I do have to say, for a $369 scan tool, this thing is pretty good. You can see it's a typical Toyota. It's got 6-cylinder, and the misfire count is 0 for them all. Even though it's got all that mileage, 0 misfires. Looking at the data here, but if you're really going to work on your own vehicle, you can see these things can do quite a bit. All of the active testing it can do. Fuel pump, vacuum switching valve. Look at all the things it can test out. Control, valve timing, variable valve timing. Lock up the torque converter, activate that. Activate the shift solenoids. Look at this stuff. I mean, it kind of makes your head spin. Control all cylinders fuel. Look at what this thing can do. It's insane. The memory, reset your oil change. You can see how the air, fuel, oxygen sensors are operating. Now, I wish they had all this data when I was a younger mechanic. It would have made my life a lot easier. Maybe I wouldn't have lost as much hair pulling it out trying to figure out what's wrong with cars. But that being said, with all these mileage on this car, there really isn't that much wrong with the thing. So where we go backwards, no backup camera, so we gotta look. As we get going, you can see these aren't outrageously high, but they're nice high in the air. You get a nice view, and the windows all around, you can really get a good view of all around. There's not really any blind spots. Pretty well thought out window setup. And I mean, this V6 engine, you step on the gas. It's got plenty of pickup left, even with 349,000 miles on it. And now, it's an '07, so it's a little older. It handles fine. The new ones actually handle quite a bit better than these old ones, but hey, zipping around, you still don't feel like you're going to lose control. And the transmission itself, look, when you go to passing gear, goes down, goes up, still smooth, and the brakes work perfectly fine. No problems with that. Now, you can hear a little noise there. You're going to get bushing wear. Things are going to creak when you take corners. Got all this mileage. It lives in snowland its whole life. You might get some AT205 reseal or some WD-40 and spray all the bushings. We'll take it on a little highway where there's no one in the way. You can see people drive like maniacs around here. That guy was missing his front bumper. A car just the other day rolled over here in a ditch. Still handles quite good in the twisties here. I don't feel any particular oversteering, understeering. And when we get to our little drag strip here, we look, there's nobody behind us, so we can stop. And now, here we go. It still burns rubber. Hey, this is an engine and a transmission. Look at that. You got a nice high view of the countryside. You don't have to worry about speed bumps. Well, the only real downside I see in this vehicle, and it's typical with Toyotas, is the sun visor keeps falling down. Well, you can't have everything, right? Whee! And I do have to say, it's a lot more fun to drive with this V6 than the 4. People whine about the acceleration of the 4s. You're not going to be whining about the 6-cylinder acceleration. It's no turbo, just a plain old naturally aspirated V6 engine. Now eventually this is going to need a left front wheel bearing, because I can hear it humming a little when I go, the noise changes. I can hear it getting louder when I go to the left. It's wearing, eventually it's going to need replacing, but it hasn't worn a tire yet. And hey, if you've been spinning around for 348,000 miles, I guess it's time for a rest and replacement if you're a wheel bearing. Hey, it's still a very solid vehicle for cruising down the road. You want all that mileage on them. They know what they're doing when they build these things in Japan. So there we have it. Now the owner wanted to know, can he get more mileage out of this car, right? Well, if he puts another 100,000, it would have gone to the moon and back. It's got another 100,000 miles to come back, and it wouldn't surprise me if it did at all. Now, with the lower level of technology these older ones had, they can go this far. The modern ones, the jury's still out. You get turbos, high pressure. I really have my doubts that those things are going to go 300,000, 400,000, 500,000 miles. Most people think, oh, well, I'll get rid of my car before then. But why? Why should you when it still rides as good and goes as fast? Why should you waste money on a vehicle? Look at both of them. They still look good. They still run good. They still get good gas mileage. Why waste your money on another car when you get something that can last like this, that's got proven technology, that isn't gambling with you as a guinea pig? Well, that didn't work. Well, I guess we'll change that design and you're stuck with it. This is a proven design. You're looking for something that lasts. And let's face it, this baby lived where? In snow all the time. Colorado, Ohio. Is it rotting out? No, it isn't, because Toyota knows how to make these things so they don't rust. So now you know a little bit more about RAV4s, why they sell so many of these things, and why you see so many of them driving around. Now, I'm not a four-wheel drive fan, like I said earlier. I think you're throwing your money away in most cases. Snow tires on a front-wheel drive one are perfectly fine. You're going to get worse gas mileage in the all-wheel drive ones than you are in two-wheel drive, but that's up to you. Either way, they're well-made vehicles. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.